afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on ICN Christ Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's local North Alabama. You can also find us on nationwide, worldwide television. That's Abundant TV, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We definitely appreciate you listening to us every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. I've got one of my favorite folks with me right now. This is Phillip Gilliland, and he is with the Cowboy Church, American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches.
Correct.
And I go to Cowboy Church, and I just got to tell you, I'm hooked.
Yeah, it'll get you. It'll get you.
It will. You know, this past we go to the Lookout Mountain Cowboy Church. Yeah. Hunton is there, and Don Hunton, and we love going to church with him. But we had this really neat dedication kind of a service, and this is the kids who went to camp.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
They had a blast.
And did some baptisms too, didn't you?
Yeah, there was like 5.
Yeah.
And I'd heard you talk about the trough, and so now I've seen a total of 3 different baptisms with people being baptized in a trough.
In a horse trough, water trough.
Water trough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting ready to do a Pee Wee camp this weekend up at Crossover Cowboy Church. And this is for the kids that are too young to go to the camp, the AFCC camp. So we joined together. Lookout Mountain's a huge part of that, and Crossover and Trading Post do that for these younger kids, and they don't get to go. And so Wormy was telling me yesterday he's got this big round water trough. In fact, they've got a couple of them that are huge, like 10 feet, and they're using those in place of swimming pools for the little kids. So,
that is awesome.
So I think that'll be great. It'll be a wonderful time for these kids that are just not quite old enough to go. And if they need to go home at night, they can. And mom and dad's always welcome there. There'll be a whole group of people there. Curtis will be there, and Miss Stephanie, my wife, a lot of people will be there helping. And you can never, when you're talking about that age group, you can never have too much help because it takes a little more.
I got to tell you about Stephanie. Stephanie is a trip.
She is.
I love her. So the kids were up there, and this is from the camp the kids just got back from, and they were talking about, the things they learned and the things they did out there. So they had some songs and that they were reenacting there as well. So some of the kids is one of the songs, and they kind of went around the stage, and then they went down the aisle and just going. So Stephanie just walked up and she got in line.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Oh, she's a mess now.
Yeah.
She had a good time. My boys went to the AFCC camp. My wife worked both the preteen and teen camps, so they had a blast too. So they were there with those kids. So it was great. And we always had, we have several salvations. We're doing because of my travels and previous commitments, we're doing the baptism at Southern Cross on the last Sunday in July, which is the 30th, I believe. And then that night, of course, we'll be all at Lookout Mountain Cowboy Church, because that's the 5th Sunday, and all our regional churches in this area come together on a 5th Sunday night service and do that. So this will be our first one to do at Lookout Mountain. It's going to be great. I talked to Miss Judy about it a couple of times, and I sent a reminder out for everybody to bring lawn chairs, because y'all are working on a new building, got a roof on it already. So we're excited to see that, be there, be with our other church families, and just worship together and have a good time. We have it going on. We have something going on that same weekend. We have a thing called the Renew Conference that takes place at No Fences Cowboy Church over at Faultville, near Coleman. And I got a reply yesterday from a pastor in Florida who's coming, bringing his wife. There's like 5 guys and their wives coming from Texas. We'll have a huge thing that weekend. It's a way for us to get together, to share some stories and pray together, and just renew our kindred spirit in the Lord. So we're pretty excited about that. We've always got jillions of things going on. That same weekend is a for him rodeo at Southern Cross Cowboy Church. So we'll get through that Saturday afternoon. I'm thinking around 2 o'clock or something. And then we'll go to the rodeo with all those kids, hundreds of kids, and it'll be great. We'll have, and by the time we get to Lookout Mountain on Sunday night, we'll probably be ready to sit in that lawn chair a while, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kids, we have a blast with the kids. This is one church that kids are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
There's just such an attraction, and they're all so enthusiastic.
Well, and people tell me that all our Cowboy churches, we have youth and little children. We just finished our nursery in the new building at the Trading Post. Just finished it. The guys did this past weekend. So, we got a rocking chair, and that was the one thing I asked for. I said, give us a nursery, because we want babies. And if moms want to hand them off and them stay in the nursery, that's great. If they want to keep them in there with us, that's also, we don't care if they whine and cry and pitch fits. We don't care. It sounds like life in the church to me. So
I feel the same way.
And so all our churches have young people, and it's sad to me when I hear that a lot of traditional churches, they've lost their young people. And if you lose your young people, you don't have a future. I mean, it's sad. So that's why we invest so much time, money, energy, effort into our young people, because when you blink, they'll be the church. And you have to keep regenerating that, or you won't have a church.
Well, I tell you why, I think a lot of young moms feel this way, okay? Because I remember going to church. Brad was a handful.
Oh, yeah.
He's still a handful at 40.
You beat me to it.
That boy's always going to be a handful. And but I remember him being, a baby, and babies are going to cry. I mean,
they do.
And there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like I had to take him out, and sometimes people just kind of look, like they had babies that never cried when they were young. And it makes a young mommy feel like, well, maybe I just don't need to go to church, if I've got to be that quiet with a baby. But nobody ever says anything.
You know what I do when I see a young couple bring a baby in, and I tell them, I go to them and tell them, I said, look, if this baby cries, don't be uncomfortable. We enjoy that sound. We think it sounds like life in the church to us. So nobody's going to think anything about it. Now, if it bothers you, that's one thing, but I can tell you ahead of time, it's not going to bother us.
But it doesn't bother me. It's again, and little chatter. Little kids, I love it.
Oh, yeah. When I'm preaching and I hear them doing it, and I've had them get up and run around, and I don't think it just doesn't faze me. None of that. And I know their parents try to corral them back up, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But I'm here to tell you, a man doesn't have much of a message if he lets a little kid, because Jesus himself said, let the little children come unto me. I mean, my goodness, I don't think there's anything any better than having youth and children and babies in a church.
I think it's absolutely awesome. And it's a refreshing thing to see that, and where they can be themselves. But, a lot of folks, they say, well, they're disruptive, but I'm like you, it's not disruptive at all to me. They're showing an interest and actually want to be there.
Yeah. I got kind of amazed this past Sunday. We had such a young couple, and I married this couple, I don't know, a couple of years ago, maybe longer. I remember the wedding. They were a precious young couple, and they wanted me to do their wedding, and I did, and it was beautiful. And I hadn't seen them, and they told me, said, we would love to come to Cowboy Church, but the bride's grandmother just couldn't stand the thoughts of them, and she was way up in years. And so the bride tells me, said, look, when something happens to my grandmother, we're going to come to the Cowboy Church. But you got to understand that I'm really trying to appease my grandmother, who was a huge part of I said, look, I understand. You go where the Lord leads you. And I didn't even say a word to them about it, but they showed up at church last Sunday. They got a little baby, and I'm thinking, this is really what it's all about. And they're still just a beautiful young couple. And boy, we are so thankful to have people like that come. Now they wanted to do this, 3 years ago, but they just couldn't let go. And I respect that. I mean, I'm sure it was a good place of worship and probably still is, but they wanted to come to Cowboy Church. We're not the church trying to reach out and steal other churches' members. We don't do that. We're the church for unchurched people. And most of the people that come to Cowboy Church, they would never go to a traditional church. They just wouldn't be comfortable there. So that's why we don't have carpet on the floor. We don't have padded pews. Instead, we have nice, comfortable vinyl chairs. And we just are a different church. We're not about trying to make you fit an image, unless that image is the image of Jesus Christ. So, that's what we try to do.
Well, I noticed a difference, not only from having you on the show, was just huge part of my life, but I have relatives that go to Cowboy Church. You've got Mike and Kay Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
Mike would probably not go to a traditional church.
Yeah.
He actually enjoys going to church now. And I think that's really awesome. And then, I've got, Charlene and Ken, and then and Charlene loves it.
Yeah. And of course, they're bringing the fall gathering to Alabama this year from Texas. The first time it's ever been. The fall gathering is a huge thing where all our churches come together once a year for this event. And it's going to be at the Cowboy Church of Colbert County, October 7th, 8th, and 9th. And it is a huge weekend. There'll be a youth rodeo. There'll be the ranch rodeo finals will be there. We're going to have a great time with that. But what I started to say about that is, they wanted to recognize some people that were instrumental in the early Cowboy churches in Alabama, which would have been the Cowboy Church of Marshall County, the Cowboy Church of Colbert County. Lonesome Dove was an early one. Even our church has been part of since 2009. So anyway, they asked me for a list of those guys, and one of the guys I thought of, people that helped us plant churches and start the first church, one of those guys was Terry Willoughby. And Terry's gone on to be with the Lord. He was my roping partner for several years.
My brother-in-law.
Yeah. And such a great guy he was. And this was his thing. Cowboy Church was meant for Terry Willoughby and people like Terry Willoughby. This was their deal. And boy, did it ever delight him. And we went and roped a few times on Sunday afternoon and competed at different places. But we always went to Cowboy Church, and you could just leave your horses on the trailer, take them off, tie them to the trailer, because we'd have to get on pretty quick after church. But we did that, and what a blessing. Those are great memories. I think about several of those guys, and some of them have gone on to be with the Lord already, that were a huge part of this, because that was this thing started in about 2005 or 6, and it started when we were going around to different barns, and we just did it once a month, and we did a thing we called Cowboy Friends and Fellowship, and we'd have food, and we'd do some kind of horse demonstration. We'd either have somebody shoe a horse, or we'd do a team roping exhibition, and then we'd put a message with it, and from that grew all these Cowboy churches. When we got to my daughter-in-law's barn, I was thinking about it this morning, because there were 70-something people showed up. And I remember telling Todd Mitchell that night, I said, "You got a church. You're just dragging them around everywhere, but you got it." So it wasn't long after that till they started the Sunday meetings, and then it just kept growing and still grows. And what a blessing.
It is. I'm hooked. I just love, but you're outreaching to the community as well is another thing.
Well, that reminds me, I hope it's okay, but I saw yesterday a memory came up in my memories of us 2 years ago. You know where we were 2 years ago this week? We were in Center, Alabama, and we cooked and we gave away food. It was hot, and we fed like 1,900 people that day. Cars lined up and waited and waited and waited. And when we ran out of food, our friend Bobby Ledbetter calls McDonald's, and he called another restaurant, said, look, I'm giving you my credit card. Anybody that comes,
every single one of those.
We just, we didn't like many serving everybody, but there was a handful. And he told these people, said, you go down there and get whatever you want. And it's at my expense. And I mean, that thrills my soul.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you what, he loves you guys.
Oh, he was such a blessing, and continues to be a blessing. Him and Miles Smith, and of course Curtis and them cooked up there. Curtis and Richard Myrick and his boys were there. A lot of times when we were able to do something, it was a joint effort between a lot of people. And of course you missed that one, but that was the only one you missed.
That's when my daughter-in-law's daughter died.
Oh yeah.
I had to go to North Carolina.
Oh yeah. That was the only one you missed. And I just thought it was a great memory, the fact, and see, the show went on, even though you wasn't there. We carried on and went on and made the most of it.
But yeah, I noticed that out of those, it's just people who just work together. And I love doing business with people like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm just, I'm all over. I mean, we actually were buying vehicles from Bobby before any of this stuff happened. I just liked him.
Well,
just a neat guy.
We bought one this year from him, and I didn't ask him, look, and I just said, this is kind of what my wife wants. And you take whatever time is necessary. And it, sure enough, it took a couple of weeks, and he called me and said, I think I found the car. and she has been just thrilled to death. And that was back in January or February 1. And she's been just happy as she could be with it ever since.
I'm gonna tell you about Bobby. He takes everything so serious. Okay, you have to be careful what you joke around with him about. Do you remember the time I said, "Hey, Bobby, I'd like to have a pink tractor"? I was joking. I did not mean I really wanted a pink. Could you say Phil on a pink tractor? He's not going to do that. So he called and he said, Miss Donna, I've been looking all over the place for a pink. And I said, Bobby, I was joking. I didn't want a pink tractor. A red one, not a pink.
Well, he could have found one too.
He was looking. I mean, he was seriously looking. And so, and then another thing, it broke his heart because couldn't make this happen. Is the kids they went to the event that they had, the camp. And so he was trying his best to find a van for them. And he found one. And here's what happened the day of, or the day before they were going in, something happened to the motor or something.
The fuel pump or
something, whatever it was. He went to pieces about that.
Oh yeah.
And I said, Bobby, things like that happen.
Yeah. Oh, he takes it serious. I mean, when Bobby Ledbetter tells you something, you pretty well take it to the bank. I mean,
you can. And I don't say that about a lot of business people at all. I mean, you got to really be like him.
Yeah.
And Miles. Again, Miles go to pieces too. And Miles doesn't want you to talk about it. Like, we've been several events.
He is so quiet compared to Bobby. Bobby's real outgoing, and Miles would just rather
He'll run when he sees me coming with a camera. I mean, he runs, but I tricked him. And this is the one at, I think it was the one in Gadsden, I think.
Yeah.
And so I didn't let him see my camera. I had it hidden. And so, but Christy posted, I want you to get him, however you can do it, get him on a video.
Yeah.
She said he runs every time he sees you coming with the camera. And so I tricked him. So I had it kind of hidden up here to the side, and I walked up to it and I just went like this. Okay. And I had to put the camera out. And he actually did really good. I mean, very, very well spoken.
Oh, yeah. And he is. He's just a quiet guy.
And then he walked over and he said, I'm going to kill you later.
Yeah.
I said, kill me and Chrissy. Okay. This whole thing was her idea as well. But he's just a really neat guy too. Because he goes to pieces too about, is there enough food for everybody?
Oh, yeah.
He's that way too. But his business has flourished.
Oh, that's great.
And when COVID hit, a lot of restaurants went out of business. But now he's always a step ahead. He's always thinking, what can I do better at? What can I do?
And he was one of the first ones to bring back the buffet, and he rebuilt his whole thing in the one in Scottsboro, which is where we go because it's closer to us. But he redid that whole thing and made it better. I mean, And Bob, I think the Lord's blessing those guys. I think he's blessing them because of what they are in the community. And Bobby, he's expanded now he's down at Gadsden.
I went out there and did a remote.
Yeah.
And I just do these remotes just whenever. I love to reward those guys. So Phil and I had to go to Gadsden to pick something up. And so I called him and I said, hey, Bobby, it'd be okay for me to do a remote in Gadsden? Yes, Miss Donna. Yes, Miss Donna. You know, like that. He calls me Miss Donna. all the time. So we get down there and he forgot to tell the guys I was going to be there. So I just walked up and I told him who I was. And I said, go ahead and call Bobby. He'll tell you. And Bobby was saying, she's the best talk show host in the world.
Yeah.
He was doing that. So I looked at the guy and he looked funny. And I said, I paid him to say that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. But anyway, he's just a good guy.
Oh, he is. He is great. He's great. It was, during the COVID, that's the kind of thing that Cowboy Churches are good at, is pitching in and helping when there's an opportunity to help. And it's the kind of thing that those guys that have got a real heart, like Bobby and Miles, they want to help people. They really want to help people. They're not looking to break anybody or hurt anybody. They want to be part of the community, and they want to be successful. But they're not looking to do that on somebody else's back.
No. And I'll tell you another person I like to talk about too, and that's our Alabama Secretary of State, John Merrill.
Oh yeah, he was at every one of those. Every one of those, I will never forget it. And I saw people, making pictures with him, and they even carried their kids up. And my boys were some of them. It was just neat because he came to work, and he did work. He helped at every one of them, and
stayed through the whole thing. Got there early and stayed late.
And then when you need somebody for something else like him, one of our churches had an issue where they wanted to look into changing their name, and so I called his office, and boy, we got help really good. And he's just a super good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, he's definitely got connections. He was at President Trump's home.
Yeah.
In Florida. And so I saw him. I was actually at Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop doing a little run through of all shows. Did you have to do that one? Because it was just me just walking around, and I saw he was down there with President Trump the very minute I was doing this interview, just walking around Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop, and I saw his name pop up. It was John Merrill. Yeah. And so I told him later, I said, does that mean I'm going to get an interview?
Yeah.
It was like that. He just winked at me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, but he's just a really, really neat guy. Too. But I mean, we got a lot of fine folks.
Oh, we have
just like magnets. Everybody gets together.
We have had some of our best fun at the get-togethers here in Geraldine with Sheriff Nick Weldon and Mayor Abel.
Oh, Mayor Abel's awesome here too.
I mean, we have just all together met some wonderful people that have meant a lot to me personally, and I've come to make friends, and a lot of it all revolves around IC radio. I mean, it does. You're the nucleus that you were the nucleus that brought all of us into one thing. We're just all spokes, but I think that middle of that wheel was IC radio.
I just like to promote people. I mean, promoting people is my gig.
Well, you did a good job, because the one thing is you picked the right people, because those people are all super good.
We're all just a bunch of friends now.
Yeah, that's right.
And every time I talk to Bobby, he always says, is there anything I can do for the Cowboy Church? I mean, he always asks.
Yeah.
And then like John Merrill, he'll always say, now, is the Cowboy Church doing anything? Is Bobby doing it? He'll do that every single time. They're
used to us now. Yeah.
Great. Well, they know it's a great cause, and it brought everybody together in the community. But what was fun is I like to do the fun stuff. Like, I like to be a Walmart greeter type person.
Yeah.
And so I got to be out there at the front.
Yeah.
And, just greeting people as they were coming in. And then I'd tag team John Merrill. So he was coming out there, and then he had his role in it as well. But I like just, being with you guys.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And it was several hours, and it just did not seem like several hours at all.
It would go by fast, and you'd be working so hard, but you wouldn't even notice it because you were having such a good time.
Even in the heat, I think Gadsden was the hottest one. Was it the hottest or was it
Center.
which one? Center was the hottest.
Center was the hottest.
I'm going to tell you what. Now, I am a very cold-natured person, so it wasn't so bad for me. But I saw some of the guys out there going, sure
yeah. Yeah.
The cold ones are the ones that I'm like, can I have extra clothes?
No, I like the cool. Like the last one we did was in Rainsville before Christmas, and it was really neat and it was really good. And the temperature was great. It wasn't bad cold. It was cool, but you know, we still had a lot of people come, and that was a blessing. You know, we take it for granted that everybody's okay, that everybody has food. That's not the case. There's people that don't have food, and we tried to help with that. And you know, it wasn't about any one of us. It was not about. We didn't try to make it about the Cowboy Church. We didn't try to make it about Twin City used cars or Cattleman's Stampede. We just tried to help people. And I think through that, I think the Lord has blessed all of us.
I do too. And my deal is kids. And some of the little kids would act like them a little embarrassing. And some of the parents like, you know, because if you're having some hard times, you don't want, you know.
Right.
And so I felt like my role was trying to make the kids comfortable and the parents too in the car. So I got to be kind of like a clown. And so, you know, kind of talking with the kids. And so I would say, do you like apple pie? Do you like pecan pie? There's a great big pecan pie with your name on it. And then they'd start grinning and, you know, so.
And I forget who it was either John or Bobby or both of them. If they'd have pockets full of candy, they'd also be handing out when they see a car with a bunch of kids in it, they'd go hand out candy to them. So, you know, that's always fun. What kid doesn't want to get candy? I mean, some of us adults even like.
I was going to say.
We are, you know,
bring me some chocolate.
This is a neat time for us because Miss Rebecca, who's at the Cowboy Church down in Fairmont, Georgia, she runs the Ranch of Hope and Healing at the Cowboy Church in Jerusalem. And she came up last week and brought her chuck wagon, and Jacob and I went with her to take it up to Etheridge, Tennessee, which is where we have all of them fitted and fixed. And if there's wheels busted, the Amish people are great. They are so good about fixing those things. So we went up there and made that trip, and when we got back to the trading post, that's where I met her. And so Jacob and I went in, and we have a guy at the trading post that works for a vending machine company, Allison Wholesales, and he always gets some of that that's almost out of date, and he picks it up and he brings it to the church. So we sent Miss Rebecca home with a huge amount of candy for all those kids. And I told him, then I told him on Sunday, I said, he said, good. He said, I'll bring some more, because we have just given it to them. Anyway, I mean, we always want to be doing stuff to be an encouragement to people that need a little bit of encouragement.
I noticed Judy at church, and at the Lookout Mountain Church, she always does that. Like the kids will come and they'll have some kind of a little Bible, you know, verse for them, and they'll tell them the meaning of some of the words that are in the verses. And those kids are attentive, by the way.
Oh yeah,
they really are. And so she always has. She would be like my favorite person at church.
Oh, she's a sweet lady.
So she always has a bag, and she'll hand the kids out candy.
Yeah. Well, I keep it in my truck. I keep stuff for the little kids because I'm guilty too. If I usually, if I don't know them, I'll ask the parents. But after you talk to them once or twice, they say, "We don't care." So, you know, especially if it's a new kid coming to church, you want to make friends with those. If they don't like it, mom and dad's probably not going to like it. So you want to make them feel at home pretty quick. So we always keep some pretty close.
Well, Stephen, even us grown-up kids remember stuff from church.
Yes.
I went to church a long time ago at the church called Oak Hill Baptist Church. It was in Oxford, Alabama. That's where I actually grew up. And there was a lady named Miss Crossan. And Miss Crossan, I'll never forget Miss Crossan. I mean, she was just so awesome. And so she would, like, you'd be sitting by your parents, you know, in church. And we had to be good in church. We couldn't like move. I mean, I would have loved Cowboy Church growing up. And so she would do like this. And she always said the very front row, right on the very, very front. And so I would walk down there. Of course, we were pretty close to the front row anyway.
Yeah.
So I would walk down there where she was, and she would give me a couple of cookies, and then I'd walk back.
Well, when I was younger in traditional church doing youth ministry and children's ministry, I kept Reese's Pieces in my jacket pockets, my blazers and stuff. I just keep packs of them in there, and there's no telling how many packs of them I gave away. You know, some kids would just want a few, and some would want the whole bag.
I'd be the one. I want the whole bag.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
There was another lady went to that's the very same church, and if it's something about food, I remember her.
Oh yeah.
And her name was Marie Smith, and this lady was an awesome lady as well. And what she would do at Halloween, you go by her house, she would make these really neat fried apple pies, and she would hand that out.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
That's how you get called to preach, eating that food right there.
My goodness. So I always wanted to go by Marie Smith's
house.
Now we couldn't call them Marie's. They would say, tell them to call us Chester and Marie. And so our parents wouldn't let us call them. We'd have to call them Mr. and Miss Smith.
Yeah.
We've got to go into a commercial break.
Okay.
We're going to go into a commercial break. We'll be right back. We went over a little bit, but that's okay. I think that's pretty cool. I'm kind of developing into the Cowboy Church on the show. So let's go ahead and cut to a commercial break. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. So y'all hang in there, okay? I said, God, you gotta move this mountain. I just don't see it any other way.
I saw it. I saw it.
I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when I heard the voice from heaven say, don't tell me about that mountain, tell that mountain about me. Face your feet, shout that name, proclaim the victory.
Oh yeah.
Send your prayers down, take a stand, get up on your knees. You told me about that mountain. Now tell the mountain about me. Introduce the problem to the answer, and you will see that problem step aside. There's no place for fear. The God of heaven is near. Step out in faith and face it eye to eye. Don't tell me about that mountain, tell that mountain about me. Face your feet, shout that name, proclaim the victory. Send your prayers down, take a stand, get up on your knees. You told me about that mountain, now tell the mountain about me.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yep. I started to say that's where they're at. Really nice.
Face your fear, shout my name, proclaim the victory. Don't tell me about that mountain, tell that mountain about me. Face your fear, shout my name, proclaim the victory. You send your prayers down, take a stand, get up on your knees. You told me about that mountain, now tell the mountain about me. Don't tell me about that mountain. I said, God. Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC in Christ Radio.
That's right.
You also see us on television.
Yes.
You know, so you can find us also on Charter Channel 182 locally to Alabama, North Alabama, and Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You know, these it's almost like an online radio station, television station, that kind of thing. And we had never heard of that a few years ago.
Oh, I mean, it's just a change. It just evolved. It was coming. We just didn't see it coming. And then it just happened.
Well, I was thinking about my own radio station, and I was talking with Tom Williams. Tom, actually, I got my start in television through Tom. And it was a television station in Jacksonville. And that was a weird situation how that happened. But anyway, Tom said, I want you to be a talk show host. I want you to host my noontime show. And I said, I've never done anything like that before in my life. I will forget what my name is. And once again, he said, no, you won't. So anyway, he's been a great guide. So I was thinking about my own radio station. And I thought, well, you have to have a tower. You got to have this. You got to have that. So he's another one of my mentors. You are, and so is Tom. And so Tom, I actually told you about it before I told Tom. So then I called Tom, and he said, do not do the tower thing. He said, you need to do internet. That's where it's all going. You're going to be spending a bunch of money for nothing. He said, because it's, and I said, well, the stations I've worked at had towers. Every time a storm would come up, we'd freak. We were always afraid of tornadoes going to blow the tower down or something. And this has been a great way to do it, because I can actually go on a vacation. I'd like to go to your event on October 7th, 8th, and 9th. And all we've got to do is bring a laptop. And we're running the business.
It'll be great. And I that gives you have so much flexibility. Like if during the COVID, we were able to Zoom these shows. So it changes everything. It just changes everything.
I have to tell you, though, I came in kicking and screaming about using the Zoom thing. I did not want to do that, because I'm a people person and that kind of thing.
Well, and I didn't. Well, that's why when I have, every time you gave me the option, I don't remember once choosing the Zoom. When you gave me the option, I would drive, and it's 40 minutes or 45 minutes for me, but there's nothing like being in person.
That's the way I am. And I like looking at people. Both my granddads were real important in my life. And there's some just simple things they taught me growing up. One of those is got to look people in the eyes when you're talking to them. That was just one of those things. The firm handshakes and all those great things. And those are principles that I want to make sure we don't lose it.
Oh, and I tell my young boys that all the time. And they have got it. They know to look people in the eye. They know to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. They answer people. And every time I see them do that, it just delights my heart.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. And growing boys is just, it's different, I think, than raising girls. I think raising girls is fun in the younger years, and then the boys kind of surpass them. Raising girls and their teenagers has got to be a nightmare.
Oh, I don't know, because I had 4 sons. I didn't have any girls, but I've had 2 granddaughters that I love dearly, and but I can't see where they ever done anything wrong.
Of course not,
because they're granddaughters, but they're grown now, and but I think you're right. I think boys are a little bit behind the curve to a point, and then everything changes, and I look back at that now and think about, I wish I'd have known with the first. I think they didn't get the best deal like the second 2's got, because I was just really young. With
me too.
When the oldest one was born, I was 20 years old when the oldest one was born.
I was 20.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, and I was so focused on making a living and trying to provide and other things. It wasn't that I missed anything. It's just like today, my youngest one sitting out there. He's with me. He goes everywhere with me. And I had 2 that kind of went with me, and Jason, my next to the oldest one, he was that way. He went about everywhere I went, he went. And there's nothing wrong with them doing other stuff, but they just chose to like the things that I chose to like. So
that makes it pretty amazing.
It is, and especially this year. I mean, I've done quite a bit of traveling for the AFCC this year, and Jacob's always with me, and it gives me somebody to talk to, and he may want to stop at some place, and that breaks the monotony up. And last week we went down to South Alabama, actually to the Mississippi line, and we were trying to help a Cowboy church down there. They got a new person taking care of their finances, so I carried my wife to do that. So I said, look, we got to make a day of this. And boy, it was kind of a long day because we went down there and came back. It was 640 miles or something like that. And
you got to like each other to go that many miles.
Oh, I'll test them out every now and then to make sure they're still tough enough. But they hung in there, and we made it, and we had a great time. Got to eat together and talk, and every now and then you just need one of those days.
Yeah, and you can make a family time out of anything. And I think we're missing out a lot, because one thing Phil and I like to do, we like to have breakfast together. And we like to have it in the dining room. You've seen the sliding glass door so we can see the pond and dream that we were fishing.
Yeah.
Of course, we compete with each other, so that can get nasty.
I know how that goes.
We can. But now Elizabeth is also a school teacher.
Yes. She teaches at Cornerstone at Wrangler. We love that school. We love it up there. The boys love it, and they're growing. They're working on a new gym right now, and a lot of great things are happening there. So we're really excited for the school, and it seems like the boys are getting through it faster than I'd like to see. Slow down a little bit, because it's kind of I know you just wink your eye and they'll be gone.
They're gonna like Brad. I can't believe he is 43 years old.
Yeah.
And wow. And I have this awesome daughter-in-law. I call her my daughter-in-love.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, but you know what she was doing one time? So she called and she said, "We're about to watch a movie." And I said, "What movie are you going to watch?" And she said, "Monster-in-Law." I said, "You trying to give me some kind of a hint, girlfriend?"
Yeah.
Jane Fonda's kind of weird anyway.
Oh yeah.
So I said, "Okay, you're going to see what I could be like. Is that what you're trying to tell me?" Their wedding anniversary was yesterday.
Oh, and Brad's birthday was the day before.
May 2nd.
Okay. Yeah. I knew a lot of things that happened close together, and we kind of forget, but all those things are important. My goodness.
But it's neat though, because I was divorced for a while, raising Brad, and you always wonder, and to you divorced moms who are out there and you're taking care of those kids, you're my hero. You really are. And because it's tough when you're being the mom and the dad. And I used to think, I'm going to make a really tragic mistake and I'm going to ruin his life. I'm going to, what am I going to do? I could have used you back then for advice. But it turned out great.
Yeah, I enjoy him, being around him, or I stay in contact with him on Facebook. He's in the ministry, and so he has some good stuff, good thoughts, and
but he preaches to me almost every morning.
Well, that's just what we preachers do. We got to preach to somebody.
He'll call, and it always turns into a sermon kind of a
thing.
Like, "Mom, I found this, and I thought you could benefit from it." And then he'll, but I remember when he started going to seminary, he took psychology classes.
Yeah.
And so he would use the psychology on me, and I didn't know he was doing it.
Yeah.
And then finally I figured it out. I said, "Hold it. You're doing psychology on me. I got you. I know what you're doing. Remember, I'm the mom." He said, "Well, even you can use a little psychology, Mom."
Yeah. Well, that's great. We have a need for young folks that age, but we're pretty blessed. I look around and see all these young guys that we have in our churches that are going through the ministry development program. Some of them are taking college classes with theology. Others are doing different. They may be going to college, but they're actively working and serving in a Cowboy church. And a lot of those, you forget how many of them they are till you go to that camp. And I went down there teen week on Wednesday night. And I looked around and saw some of those guys like DJ King from Lonesome Dove, him and his wife, Ava. They're expecting their first baby, and he's just an incredible young preacher. I've listened to some of his sermons; they're great. And then I have some of those in others like Drew Lester or Will Laycock, and I mean, there's just a never-ending list. And it really helps when you can call one of them up and say, "Look, I have to be somewhere else. Can you fill in for me?"
Very dependable.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
you know you're leaving it in good hands.
Yeah.
Now at the camp, there were a couple of guys, and I forgot what they called them, and they were probably in their, maybe late teens or something like that. They were kind of like team leaders. What was it
They call Wranglers.
Wranglers. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Wranglers. What is a Wrangler exactly?
Well, a Wrangler is somebody that's just barely older than the group. Mm-hmm. And that's somebody that has some sense of spiritual maturity for their age.
I could see.
And they have to be go through some training. They have to be really, we don't let anybody ever around our kids without we do some serious background check. Mm-hmm. So they have met all that criteria. Usually there's somebody that's in one of our churches that we know pretty good, and that the Lord puts it in their heart to go. And we could not have camps if it wasn't for those Wranglers. I'm here to tell you, and my wife would tell you that all those who help, they grow more as much as the kids grow.
Oh, they said they did.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what happens. But it's like this, and you think back to any church where you've ever been, nobody grew any more spiritually than those that were there. Even if you were just in a revival service and you had a dynamic evangelist come in to preach, you would grow too. Everybody would grow. When you helped in a vacation Bible school, it doesn't matter if you were a helper and you had kids there, you would grow with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's what I always say is when you've been around or been in the presence of the Holy Spirit, nobody wants to be in a big hurry to leave. And I think that's why in the Bible, there was always so many people around Jesus. They didn't want to leave. Here's the guy that was the great teacher, the great physician, the great healer, the great miracle worker. Why would you ever want to leave his presence? Mm-hmm. So I think some of that is similar in being in a place where the Holy Spirit is active and working. It gets on you too. And I promise you, when you have that baptizing service and that great service this past Sunday, nobody was in a hurry to get to Cattleman Stampede that day. They were taking their time, and they wanted to finish everything and make sure, because that's just the way it is when you're in the presence of the Holy Spirit. You're not. That's
the one big thing I noticed. I've been to churches before, just as soon as the pastor said it's done, everybody was running out of the church or ready to go to get something to eat or whatever. I've noticed that after church, and it's all the Cowboy Churches we've been to. Yeah. You go and nobody wants to leave.
That's right.
I mean, everybody just wants to hang around with each other, and not just Judy and Don. I mean, it's this fellowship with everybody.
Oh yeah.
We were not at church for a couple of weeks because of Mother fell down, and so somebody had to be with her to make sure she was behaving herself. And she's watching right now, Mother behave herself.
Yes.
And so we didn't get to go for 2 Sundays. It just seemed like the longest. It was just, so we got to go back Sunday, and it's like everybody acted like we'd been gone for 6 months.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we walked in, and it was so welcoming. People were just walking up to us, hugging us, and we missed y'all. But I've been to churches before where you didn't know if you're being missed or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the fellowship in our churches, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, sisterhood is way different. And listen, I'm not knocking any traditional church. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for a little traditional church that I grew up in. So I'm not knocking them, but I think that for whatever reason, that we don't have barriers that separate people into groups and things. Mm-hmm. Cowboy Church has done away with those barriers.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and I hope we keep those out of our churches, because they weren't meant to be in our churches, not barriers.
Well, I remember back in the day, we used to go, when we moved up here, I was a teenager, we moved to Sand Mountain when I was 14, and we started going to Antioch Church.
Oh yeah.
Raymond Cook.
Yeah.
He was a lot like that. He didn't want any barriers. He didn't want any. And this is something he always told the congregation. He'd say, "Now, you church members, when we have visitors, you go speak to those visitors. You can find that you seek them out." and you have to go speak to them. People have to feel welcome when they come into church.
Yeah.
So that was my training. That was my, because when I was a kid, and I would just act, I would say, that's a new person. So I'd go talk to them and speak to them to make them feel like they should be there.
We had a young couple that's been coming, and they drive all the way from the Sequatchie Valley in Tennessee to the trading post. They've been coming for maybe 2 months now. And
it's worth a drive.
Oh, well, I said something to the dad, and he's a super nice guy. Him and his son join in the men's prayer circle every Sunday. And a lot of people don't know about that, but I don't know if they do it at Lookout Mountain, but most of our churches do this. Before we start service on Sunday, the men go out to their cell, circle up in a circle.
So as women, we hold hands.
And we share some prayer requests, and then we pray together before we ever start. And but I noticed this dad and son, they joined right in our prayer circle right off, and such a super nice, sweet family. And they've been coming, and but the first time I saw him, I made sure I went and spoke to him, and we've had several since we finished the new building. We've had several new couples, and I think it's it's better that we got more room because we needed it. So we're thankful for that.
I'm glad you mentioned the prayer circle, because Judy, she says this every Sunday, and she says, I hate to repeat myself, but we got a lot of new people who come almost every Sunday.
Oh yeah.
And so we'll be around the prayer circle, and she said, now God can hear you even if you whisper it, even if you think the prayer, God can hear you.
Yeah.
But Satan can hear it if you pray out loud.
Yeah.
And so, and I never thought about it that way. So sometimes I just walk around the house and I'll say, Satan, stay away from my house. Satan, stay away from, I do that. If I guess people looking in would think I was nuts, but saying it out loud does help.
Oh, I agree. And to me, that's one of the things I never want to miss is the prayer circle, because usually I've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and that like Miss Bonnie White from Sand Mountain Cowboy Churches is having some tests this week. She has been really on our heart. So
we even have, I keep getting notifications, and so I keep looking at notifications, and I'm not being rude. It's just, we call it church ladies.
Yeah.
And this is the church we go to, Lookout Mountain. And sometimes they'll say, here's one, say a prayer for my little one. Laura broke her big toe in a cast in the summer, and it's not fun. So she's showing a picture. So, and here's everybody, responding. Poor baby, bless her sweet heart.
Yeah.
And there's a little cry face.
Well, and that's the way to.
This is so cool.
Well, all our churches have a Facebook page. Every one of them has a Facebook page. And if you want to know what's going on or what time they start, you can go to that Facebook page and find out, because there's cowboy churches everywhere across North Alabama, Tennessee, and even in Georgia. Of course, the majority of them are in the state with the largest number is Texas, but the state with next to the largest number is Alabama. And we've got new churches starting now down in southern Alabama and all over Tennessee. There's 4 or 5 new ones there. It's keeping us pretty busy, and it's a good kind of busy to be.
And they're all over the country too, because we found that out from Abundant TV, you guys who are listening to us, and we appreciate that.
Yes.
I appreciate you letting me know.
Yes.
Where there's a new cowboy church. We'd like to know.
And if anybody wants to know where one's at, you go to AmericanFCC.org, the website, and there's a place where you can put your zip code in, and it'll tell you the closest cowboy church to you.
Well, there was one, we lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, just right down the road from us.
Monroe.
Really, really nice. And I think Brad said he thinks there's one pretty close to where he lives.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where he lives, but I went to one further north back, I think it was December or November. I went up to one and I can't remember the town, but Harvey Gates is the pastor. And I had lunch with him and got to meet him. It's not far from Brad. Actually, I'm sure it's the one he's probably talking about. I can't remember the name
There's
of the
one
town.
close to Raleigh. I mean, he lives close to Raleigh in a little town. When you guys hear me do the traffic report and I say Creedmoor, North Carolina, the mule capital of the world, it's the mule capital of the world. It would be fitting because Brad lives there.
Oh, yeah.
That's where he lives, Creedmoor. It's just a few minutes from Raleigh.
Yeah. And that's where this Brother Harvey's church is too. And I wish I could remember the name of the town. It'll drive me crazy to like get back to my phone and look. But it's not far. It's not far from Raleigh. And I bet that's the one he's talking about. Such a great guy. Good guy. We had a great lunch time together, and they'll be at the fall gathering. They may be at the, I think they're coming to the Renew conference the last Saturday in this month too. So
there's going to be a women's conference also coming up this month. I don't think it's this Saturday, it's the next Saturday. I don't have the date exactly right, but I'll tell you about it a little bit later. And it's going to be right here in Alabama. So most women are going to get together.
Well, that'd be on the 23rd. I can tell you that Saturday will be the 23rd. Where is it at?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's close to Coleman, I think.
Okay. Maybe. Well, good.
But Judy's going to kill me. Donna, we've only talked about this a dozen times. Oh, I know where it's at. It's in my daytimer. I've got it here. And Philip, if I don't put stuff down in the daytimer.
Well, that's me. I'm old fashioned. I still carry a planner around because if I write it down, it's better.
If I put it on a little piece of paper, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, well, I don't put, a lot of people put it in a phone or a tablet. I just choose to write it.
Oh, it is Coleman. Lonesome Dove Cowboy Church.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be there.
Oh, you'll love that place. My friend Tim Collier's the pastor, and Miss Tammy is his wife. Sweet, precious lady, and they have a wonderful family.
So I'm looking forward to that as well, because I love all the women I've met.
Oh, you'll love Miss Tammy. She is a sweet, sweet lady, and Tim is one of my best friends. He's a really good guy.
Sometimes it's Phil and I like to take trips together. I mean, we love each other, we're husbands and wives, but sometimes men need to go to a men's conference. Women sometimes need to go.
We do that early in the year. Every year we go to a thing called Testing of the Bulls, and it's very plain talk, and it's for men to encourage men to be men. And I usually go to two of them. I usually go to one in Thousand Hills and up in Etheridge, Tennessee, and I usually go to the one in Tatum, Texas at Bar None Cowboy Church, where my friend Jay Taylor's the pastor. I usually go to both of those, and I enjoy it.
I'm glad to see that, because if you listen to the media and you watch television talk shows and things like that, even some of the comedies, they're demeaning men, and I don't like that.
Well, we living in a time when men need to step up and be men and spiritual leaders of their home. I'm not talking about being aggressive or mean or something. I'm talking about setting the example for the family and going to church. Don't send them to church. You go take them to church. And we need that more now. And I guess I'm on kind of a tear because I was watching, I caught a little bit of the local news by accident because I was trying to watch for the weather. And I saw over the 4th of July weekend, somebody carrying a sign protesting this overturning of Roe v. Wade. And that sign said, "You may be Christian, but America is not." And that that fried me.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm thinking, if all the money that you got, that you have, that says "In God We Trust," you need to give it to some of us. Then, if you don't, if you feel that way, you need to get rid of that money that says "In God We Trust," because that was the principles that this country was founded on.
Absolutely, it was. We have less than a minute, about 42 seconds left in this segment. What would you like to tell the folks before?
Well, I'd say, get active in worship somewhere in it, whether it's a traditional church or a cowboy church, or you need to be growing spiritually. There's two kinds of lives: a worldly life and a spiritual life. And if you're just nurturing that worldly life, you're not going in the right direction. You need to be nurturing your spiritual life.
Absolutely. Philip, thank you so much for being on the
it's my
show.
pleasure.
It's always so much fun to have Philip on the show. I tell him everything. Well, almost everything. I tried to give you some juice the other day, and just to let you know that it wasn't alcoholic. I make my own juice.
It was good.
It is juice.